My name is Jack Raine. As I said, I've always been interested in transport, so my natural choice was the Royal Army Service Corps, which I did get into the Royal Army Service Corps. What I didn't know was that the Army Service Corps had two branches. You were either transport or supply. If you're transport, then you're a driver. If you're a supply, you could either be a clerk, a cook, a seaman, or a storeman, something like that.
And your rank that you had in the
well, yes, I was a private, of course. On the unit that I was attached to, I was posted to a detachment away from the headquarters, and I was there. I was chief clerk there, and I got promoted to Lance Corporal. Then I had the Lance Corporal rank for a while. I can't remember how long, and I was transferred back to HQ because the lad who was chief clerk was going home, so I took his job as chief clerk of the whole unit, and then I got a second strike, so I was a corporal, which but when I came home, then I lost the rank because that was the way it worked.
So after the national service?
Yeah, after the national service, when I came back to be demoted, and when you'd finished, you were just reverted back to private. Yeah.
Okay. So can you describe for us your first memories of your training for joining the armed service?
Well, yeah, we joined up at Oudenarde Barracks in Aldershot, and it was a bit of a rude awakening because you'd spent the day travelling, then you were sort of bungled in a lorry from the station to the barracks. You were given your room, and then you were issued with your kit, had something to eat, and finally got to bed somewhere around about midnight, only to be rudely awakened at 5 o'clock by somebody banging on the door. That was the corporal who was waking you up, and you started then, and it was really a breaking in period. You were doing drill, you were having to sort of clean all your kit, and we were confined to barracks on the first weekend, because we always joined on a Thursday, so on the following weekend we were confined to barracks, and we were given instructions that the floor had to be polished, ready for inspection on Monday morning, and the only way we could polish it was to use boot polish, so we had to use boot polish and polish it up. Needless to say, at the end of our training, which was 10 days, we won the best billet prize. But it was all a rush. You were doing all, as I said, drill, you were doing your kit, you were having interviews and things like that. And then at the end of that time, you were sectioned into what you were going. You were either going to be a driver, or you were going on the supply side, which I was, which was the clerical side. So then I went to Blackdown, which is outside Aldershot near Farnborough, no, more towards Camberley actually, where I spent 6 to 8 weeks on basic clerical training, as well as drill, rifle training, field craft, and then that was the end of the course. during the course, we were asked for volunteers to go to the Far East. I'd said to my mother when I went in, I'm going as far away from home as possible. If there's a chance to go to the Far East, I'm going to go, because I'll never get the opportunity to go, because you didn't in those. So when they asked for volunteers, I volunteered, much to the murmurs to the rest of the squad when I stepped forward. Anyway, we got, I think, about 20 of us, and we were kept back to do another 6 weeks of training, which was mainly fieldcraft in the woods and a little bit of getting our typing skills up, and that was it. The only compensation was that we were supposed to have 2 48-hour passes, and all the rest were 36-hour passes, which you could go to London, because it was easy to go to London. And that's all the leave that we got. At the end of the course, we were sent to Dover, which was our depot battalion, and we were told, well, you're going on 14 days embarkation leave. Ease your rail warrant, get on the truck and off you go. So I had 14 days embarkation leave in November '49, went back to Dover, was there for about a week, which wasn't very nice, because all you did was parade in your kit and be inspected, and it was cold and it was dark, and they pulled you to pieces left, right and centre. And eventually we got a draft for the Far East. We had to report, I think, it was in the evening anyway, it was dark, and we're all on the parade ground with your battle dress, your great coat and your pack on, and your kit bag, and they called out the names of all the people on the draft, and there was 2 missing, and it was me and another guy. And we were what they call waiting men, in case somebody was taken out, then we would go. So they all went off to the Far East, and I'm stuck at Dover with another guy who I didn't know. And one of the sergeants came to me and he said, you're a waiting man, you're a bit lost, aren't you? I said, yeah. He said, I'll tell you what, if you'll be our Batman, I'll look after you. So I thought, right, here goes. So for about 4 or 5 days, I pressed the shirts and I ironed the shirts, pressed the pants, did all sorts, looked after the billet for them, and they treated me well. And he came one day, he said, you're on a draft for the Middle East. So I thought, oh, good. So eventually the draft was called forward, and we went by train up to Liverpool, and we embarked on a ship, which I honestly thought when I got on the dock that it was the Isle of Man boat. Expecting to see a big line, and there was this ship. It was the Empire Pride, which wasn't all that big, and that was it. We set sail the same night.
So you were told then where you'd be stationed?
No. You were on board ship. We were on there for about 10 days. And being November, early December, it was rough with the Bay of Biscay, and it was rough in the Med. And we got to Egypt, Port Said. We were then taken to another transit camp, which was at Gabal Mariam, on the side of the Canal. We were there overnight, and we were then told which units we'd been allocated to, and there was another guy and me in this vehicle, and the driver said, well, I know where one of you's going. He said, but I don't know where the other one will go. And the lad that he knew who was going was stationed at a military prison. He was a driver, so his job there, which was quite a formidable place when you looked at it. But he said, I don't know where you are. He said, you're a mystery to me. He said, we'll call in here and see which was RAFA. And he inquired and said, oh yes, the rear, then down to the billet and things. And we had a billet, which was brick built billet. We were lucky in that respect. And half the billet was Royal Signals, and half of it was the Service Corps and the King's Royal Rifle Corps, were the lads who were in our unit. And that's where we were, the RAFA. But we worked at HQ 205 Group Middle East Air Forces, which was in between two units.
So when you found out that you'd be in Egypt for your service, did you have any kind of preconceptions about Egypt and Suez?
Well, yes, I think I did, like everybody. You know, the mystery of the East. It was going to be sun, camels and sand, and it was going to be good. And you didn't think about the flies and the smells and the mosquitoes and everything. That was the eye-opener when you got there. But you learned to get on with it.
Yeah. So once you got there, you know, what were your impressions of Egypt and Suez there?
Well, it was a big adventure when you got there. It was a bit overpowering to start with because the RAF base that we were on was the largest aerodrome in the Middle East, and at that time was far busier than London Heathrow, believe it or not. But it was also a bit of a relief to find that you'd been posted to a unit which was attached to the RAF. So you hadn't really got a lot of strict discipline that you would have in a proper unit. We had a sergeant and we had a couple of corporals. They were corporal. One was the chief clerk, and another one was on the MT side. So it was good. In a way, I said, "Oh, can't believe me luck that I'd landed with this." As it turned out, it was a good posting. Yeah.
Did you have much interaction with any of the Egyptian people?
Not very much. We were away. Fade was the nearest town, and there used to be a bus that ran there which could go into the town. We didn't go into Fade very much actually, and there was another bus that ran up round the Bitter Lakes and up the Canal Road to Ismailia, which was the main big town in the Canal Zone, and we went there a couple of times. We didn't really bother very much with them. We got on with the bearers that you had in the billet, who looked after the billet. Our man was a Sudanese, and he was all right. And at the other aerodrome that I was attached to, at Devaswar, there were some shopkeepers there, so you got on with them all right. But we had a lot of people who worked on the base, widows who were Greeks, who come from Greece, and they were okay. Yeah.
At any time when you were out on the station at Suez, were you involved in any sort of conflicts or skirmishes and so on?
Not actual conflict with the Egyptians. If we went out at night in a vehicle, then you have to have an armed escort. There was trouble on a minor scale while we were there. We had an instance when I was at Devaswar, and we were in one billet, alongside us with RAF bit, and they were robbed one night, but we weren't took. I was involved as the chief clerk of the unit in that if any top secret messages came in during the night, then I always had to sign for them and then deliver them to the commanding officer. And I had a number of instances of that happening not long before I came home, because the Abadan crisis was on. That was when the Iranians nationalised the oil refineries in Iran, and I had to sort of sign for the message, wait in one of the drivers, we'd have to go and draw arms, get a vehicle, go out down into Fade to the married quarters there, knock the old man up, get him to sign it, and then come back and go back to bed. And that happened a number of times. I did a guard duty at Fade, but there was no problems on that. Yeah.
So did you find many difficulties when you were out serving on the Suez at all? Did you find anything hard? It was just
no. The difficulties, I think, was the trying to keep yourself where you're in good health. I didn't get dysentery at one time, and that was quite an experience. I finished up in the RAF hospital. So you're watching your food all the time to make sure that you'd hope it wasn't contaminated, and water, of course, because in those days you didn't have bottled water. Your basic drink was Coca-Cola. Although they did have big pot, like terracotta pots outside each billet, which had drinking water in, but of course that could be infected at the time. So no, you got used to the heat and the different temperatures, and yeah, you got on with it really. You have to do.
Was the food good out there? Was it different?
The food was awful, yeah. Absolutely awful at RAF Fade. We had breakfast, tiffin they called it, and then dinner at night. Very rarely did we go to the evening meal, and we used to live on double egg and chips in the Malcolm Club, which was like the naffy. They had a naffy, and the Malcolm Club was a particular thing for the army, yeah. And I think we ate there most nights because it was terrible. It was terrible food. But of course, when it got near to us paydays, you had no money, you had to eat what we given. We had two. I was at Fade in 1949 Christmas and 1950 Christmas, and we had good meals then. Good laid on meals then. But a lot of food was wasted. It wasn't cooked right. Devasoir, I think, was all right. I have no memories of that being bad. We didn't eat out much then.
When you speak of Christmases, how would you spend both of the Christmases away from home? How were they? Was it hard being away from home?
They were all right, but you could probably sum it up by saying they were a big booze up because you had nothing. You 2 days holiday, Christmas Day and Boxing Day, so you had nothing to do, only just sort of lounge about. Nothing was moving or anything. There was no entertainment or laid on or anything like that. And we had these competitions to do the best bar, and we won it one year, 1950, and with 2 crates of beer that was given by the station commander for us. So that went down quite well. But the beer out there was quite strong, the Egyptian beer, and you didn't have to get too much of it. But you were away from home, but everybody mucked in and you made the best of it, really. Yeah.
So, when you found out that, when you knew your time was coming to an end in Egypt, how did that make you feel? Would you be happy to be returning home? Or
yes, I was happy because my mother was on her own, or my aunt and my uncle were living with us at the time, and my brother was still at school. I was knew that I could go back and contribute to the upkeep of the house, really. So I was quite pleased that my time had come to come out of the forces, well, to finish my national service. In the event, I came out in the July and my mother died in the December, so I didn't know that she had been quite seriously ill whilst I've been away, and it's been touch and go on a number of occasions whether they would have sent for me to come back home on compassionate leave. I personally was very unsettled when I came out of the forces, and I think had I just received probably a little bit of a push, I would have gone back in. But I was torn between whether to go in the army or whether to go in the RAF. I'd seen how the two lived, and the RAF lived better than the army, but promotion was better in the army than it was in the RAF. What I didn't realise was, of course, that in the National Service, when you came out, you either went in the TA or the reserve. If you went in the TA, then you had to report to the drill halls so many times a month. With the reserve, you had a camp to do every year. Well, I came out in July, and lo and behold, I was back in uniform in October, and I've been demobbed 3 months and 8 days, and I was back in uniform. And I did 3 camps. I did 1950, 51, 52.
But after that, that was it after that?
You were just on reserve. You were subject to call up if they needed you. And when the Suez crisis was on, that was a worrying time as to whether I would be called up, because our unit was a specialist unit dealing with air-to-ground support and supply drops. There's a possibility that I could have been called up, but I wasn't.
How did when the Suez crisis happened? How did you relate that to your own experiences around?
Well, I could see what was happening. I could understand what it was, and I was all for, yeah, let's get it, let's look after it. But when you read the history of it and how it was brought about, then that wasn't right, the way that it was done.
Yeah.
It should never have been, actually. Yeah. The thing about that was that all the RAF, they were bombing the airfields that they used to be at. So RAF Devasoir, the squadrons that were there when I was there, they were bombed as RAF was bombed. It seemed strange, really, that you have to do it.
So once you were back home, can you describe for us a little bit of your life after leaving the armed services?
Well, I was a bit unsure what I wanted to do. As I said, I've always been interested in transport, but 1950-51 there was a lot of the nationalisation of transport which had started in 1948, I would have liked to have gone into road haulage, but I didn't know really how to get into British Road Services because they were people. I realised later that they had a graduate scheme and I should have gone on that. So I went to work in Westgall with a company there that did plant hire. I worked in the accounts department for a while. Then I moved from there and went to work for Aston Corporation, and I was there for about 6 years. And then I got a job with a company in Manchester who were fuel distributors in the transport department, and I was there for 12 years and was sort of assistant transport manager there. I had a big fleet of vehicles and it was very interesting, cut and thrust of the game. And then I left there and went to the Road Transport Industry Training Board, worked there for 3 years and went to Selneck as the training officer for Southern Division. And then in 1994, reorganisation of local government, I became training officer road staff at Greater Manchester Transport. So I was responsible for all the driver training, conductors, anybody who touched a vehicle, forklift trucks, the thing, everything came under me. So it was quite a good job, and we were made redundant in '86, and I worked for myself then as on training matters with the employers' body, and I used to go all over the country with assessing driving instructors, which was quite interesting.
So do you see your experience in the armed services as helping this kind of career in a way?
Yeah, I think it's helped me in my career with the, particularly when I was with the Road Transport Training Board, because there were a lot of ex-military people there, and I'm still in contact with one of my colleagues there who was a Chelsea pensioner, and he's service corps as well, so we've got a bond there. But the thing that the National Service did was to help you to build bond with other people, and you're able to form, make conversation and form this sort of bond, and it makes you look after yourself, made you look after yourself and look after other people to an event. You know, your close friends, you look after them, you're all mucked in together. You know, it was a good experience and I don't regret it one little bit. You know. I was fortunate in that had I gone another year later, then I would have been involved in all the troubles in Egypt with the guerrillas and a lot of guard duties and that sort of thing. We didn't have that. The downside of that is that I don't get the medal that they get.
So did you see many people that you served with at all afterwards? Or?
I've only ever seen one guy who lived in Southport, and I met him quite by chance on the train one morning when I was travelling from Southport back to Manchester. But no, I've not met anybody. I'm a member of the Suez Vets Association, and we have a trip to Egypt every year. And I've been back. I went in 2000, and apart from 2009, I've been every year. And I was going to go this year, but I've had to cancel it for health reasons. So I've been back and seen what's there and seen the changes. The RAF Fade is the main Egyptian Air Force base in the Middle East, and it's a massive air zone now. Devasoir, where I was, is not very much. I don't think they do. They won't let you go there anyway. So it's quite interesting to see what relics are there of what was there when we were there. Yeah. And the Egyptian people are great. They are great. Yeah.
So does going back bring up any any particular memories, other things you'd like to share about your time?
Oh yes, I mean you're always chatting with the other guys who are on the party, what they did and what you did, and it was interesting to see the different jobs, the different things. People worked in the bakery, people were at the water filtration plant, one of the guys used to be the projectionist at the cinema. Another guy was a postman and the barber at one of the stations I was with. So yeah, it's interesting in that respect. Yeah.
So, like you say you agree with the national service whole thing. You'd say it was worth it. And
yes, I think
is that
so.
a feeling you get from other old colleagues as well?
Yes, you got this bond. It helps you to mature. You mature quickly overnight. One day you're a civilian, and the next day you're not. There's somebody there shouting at you and telling you what to do. I mean, a lot that you see on the television is over dramatised, and okay, you might get the odd guy who was a bit awkward, but generally things were all right. If you behave yourself, you're all right. If you didn't behave yourself, that was a different matter.
Is there any other kind of memories or experiences from your time in Egypt that you'd
like to I think the thing that sort of I came on to me was the difference in the relationship between NCOs in the RAF and NCOs in the Army. In the Army, you tended to be a god sort of thing. Particularly if I might say the station warrant officer, they were the next officers that they had to be obeyed. And I remember walking along the road when I was at Deversoir, and going down the road in front of me was the station warrant officer, and coming up the other way with two airmen, and as they passed they just said, "Morning, Chiefy." And that sort of looked, I thought, oh. And another time that we were going to lunch, we used to work from 8 o'clock till 1, and we were going to lunch past 1, and one of the RAF transport planes, the long distance one, the big 4-engine one, the Hastings, had come in, and the crew were walking up to go to the mess. Now the pilot was always an officer, but the other members of the crew were sergeants. And I always remember this officer amongst this crew. And we're going along, and there he is, he's going up and down, saluting. And all these sergeants saying, "Serves you right, you know, sure." Well, you wouldn't see that in the army. Well, they may have done these days, but they wouldn't in our time. Little instances like that where you saw. Our officers in our unit, with it being a specialist unit, were all different regiments. Our commanding officer was the Welsh regiment, the adjutant was the Royal South Wales Borderers, the officers at Deversoir was the Royal Tank Corps, King's Liverpool regiment, and one which was a very good, had a captain in the 3rd Carabiniers, which was an elite regiment really, Royal Artillery. So they were all different, and they had this relaxed. They were doing the job. They were doing a specialist job. We were there just to support them, really. Yeah. And our sergeant was in the Royal West Kent Regiment. Most of us were Service Corps, although with 1 or 2 King's Royal Rifle Corps who were gradually being worked out. Eventually it became all Service Corps. Yeah. It was a mixture. But an interesting mixture, interesting experience. Yeah.
Is there anything else you'd like to add? Or we can call that?
No, I don't think think so.
No, we'll call it.
No.
Well, thank you very much for
All right.
sharing with us. That was great. Yeah.
Thanks very much.
Okay.
Okay.
Shall we,